I'm going to give a little tour of Sandy Boulevard, starting out here on about 84th or so at the Rocky Butte Pub. Rocky Butte is over to our left, and it's an old volcanic feature in the Portland area. Used to have the Rocky Butte Jail at the base of it, but that's been changed many years ago now. So we're starting out at the Rocky Butte Pub, and we're going to go next to, we're going to go past the Grotto, which is, it houses a Catholic church and kind of a nice, peaceful grounds on 2 levels. You can take an elevator up to the top level, and they have Stations of the Cross and etc. It's a kind of a nice peaceful place. So we're just going back by the entrance to the Grotto right now, and we are approaching 82nd Street. We're also coming up to where the old Shriners Hospital used to be for many years. Up in this area here was the Shriners Hospital for crippled children up until about 2000 or late 90s or so. And let's get in this other lane here so we can continue our tour. We're at a red light here, but that's okay. We'll get through this. So this is 82nd Avenue now. Used to be the main route down to the Portland Airport until the 205 freeway went in sometime in the 90s or something. We're about to come up here to the Cameo Pancake and Steak. Fantastic place if you need a fantastic breakfast. Big meals, good price, has a nice old-time feel to it, at least 60s feel to it. Nice waitresses. Now we're coming up on our left here. We're coming up to Ed's House of Gems. Great place if you're into gold panning. You can pick up your gold pan here. They got agates and crystals and various semi-precious stones. Plus, if you want to pick up some old fossils like trilobites or some of those other things, you can. Here's an interesting architectural feature on our right. It's now a strip bar, but it's an old tavern in the shape of a jug. We're approaching 72nd Avenue now. Which I'm not too familiar with it. I did grow up in the area, but things have changed a little bit. There's Annie's Donuts. I think that might have been a old root beer stand at one time. I'm not sure, because coming up here shortly, if I haven't passed it already, was the an old A&W root beer, which looks like I might have passed it already. This is become populated by a lot of Vietnamese in this area right now, which is fine. They have a lot of fantastic restaurants up along here, so we often go to some of them. And there's one good one coming up here that I go to more frequently than any other. It's coming up here soon. Oh, I think I'm coming up to the old A&W root beer here. You can probably see by the architecture on our left here, Pho An. It's a pho place, but it used to be, I believe, an A&W root beer. You can see by the architecture. And here, when I was a kid, this place on our left that says Pho Corner used to be a place called Rutherford's, and we used to eat there. Behind it is a Methodist church, which I was not a Methodist, so I didn't go there. We're at a red light here, but we'll be going along here in just a moment. Here we go. Here on our right is a kitty motel in case you're going out of town and need to have your kitty taken care of. Now we're coming up to 57th, the 57th Street Exchange. Used to be a Masonic lodge here, Friendship Lodge for many, many years. Right on the corner here. It was sold a couple years ago to the German American Society, and they made some additions to the property. We'll see shortly, though, the George Washington statue, which has been there for years. You can see the George Washington standing there right now. That is a public park, so nobody can remove that statue. Here is kind of an interesting fire station on our left. And there is the old prime rib. Now it's called Clyde's Prime Rib, but it used to just be the prime rib. Great place in town. Here is Dew's Grill on our right. Fantastic place to eat. We're coming down the hill now into the Hollywood district. Some of these places, these buildings were here since I was a kid. You can see they're kind of old, but they've been put to new uses. Here on our right is the recently defunct Rhinelander and Gustav's. They were open until just December 31st. Portland, iconic landmark for restaurants and German food. Now we're coming more into what's known as the Hollywood district. I don't know exactly why it's called the Hollywood district. It might have been some promotional idea from the 1920s, I'm not sure. This Sandy Boulevard has been around for since the mid to late 1800s. It was a main thoroughfare, east-west thoroughfare in Portland. Started out as a, well, maybe it was a sandy road. Maybe that's why it's called Sandy Boulevard, or probably because it goes out to the Sandy River, about 15 miles or so to the east of us. So here we're entering the Hollywood district. Up on our right up here is the old Hollywood Burger Bar. It's been there for years. The owner recently allowed some kind of a smoked cookery to set up just outside the Hollywood Burger Bar. You can see the smoker there. It's caused just incredible smoke damage to the old Hollywood Burger Bar. I don't know why the owner let them put that in there. It's just horrible damage, but that's an old iconic place. Here on our right used to be a Fred Meyer's when I was a kid, and right here on the corner where it says Tan Republic, that used to be a Rexall drugstore. When I used to come down here with my mother, she used to hold me by the hand and we'd cross this street here. And but mainly this whole block was a Fred Meyer's, and there's parking on the roof, excuse me, and a little elevator that takes you down into the store. Here on our left is the iconic Hollywood Theater. Been recently upgraded. Has a fantastic organ in there. Sometimes they play old-time organ accompanied movies. Here is the intersection where Sandy and Broadway come together. There is the old I forgot the name of that restaurant. Anyway, it's no longer in business. Poor Richard's, that's what it's called. Here in front of us is an iconic landmark. It used to have a big 7-Up sign on it, but the 7-Up sign was taken down a couple years ago. Oops, got a little water on my windshield. Now we're coming down towards 33rd. I saw a YouTube video last night taken from right along this area in 1939. It's a completely different place now, though I'm sure some of these buildings were here. Well, I think there's old Poncho's Restaurant. It looks like it's called Chopsticks now, but it was Poncho's when I was a kid. And they used to have, inside of it, they had the Cantina, and I always thought, what an interesting name, the Cantina. And of course, Of course, it comes from, or our word of canteen, I guess, comes from it, but it just means the bar, the cantina. I didn't know that for a long time. On this corner on our right here, when I was a kid, it was an S&H green stamps store. You used to bring in your little green stamps that were pasted in the little book, and you could trade them in for irons or little doodads and luggage and things like that. But that's been gone for a long time, and I can't remember what was across the street there. It says Standard Appliance now, but I can't remember. It's kind of funny how the mind works, how you something exists for decades and then one day it's gone, and then you can't remember what used to be there. Anyway, we're going on past 33rd Avenue. We're coming up to a couple places near and dear to my heart. My uncle was a local car dealer here. He used to own this Meadows Ford. My dad worked for him, and he used to come over to this place here on our left, and it used to be called the Blarney Castle. It's one of my dad's hangouts. But on our right here was Meadows Ford back in the 70s. Here, my cousin's husband owns this John W. Negus company right there. And we're going on down the street here to another place my uncle owned. He's really a second cousin, not an uncle. He started Meadows Pontiac back in, I suppose in the 1950s, right in that building right there. Now we're heading on down Sandy. It's raining. We just finished our big snowstorm. You can see there's still a little patch of snow on the ground over there. We had a big snowstorm last week. It's warmed up and melted off 99.999%, but occasionally we still see a little patch of snow in the shadows. There's not much shadow right now because it's just turned to rain. Anyway, going on down here, I passed a couple of little iconic places and didn't mention them. I'm sorry about that. Coming up on our right here is a local TV station, KATU, news station. I guess all those sportscasters and weathermen come here to work every day. I never seen them outside, but I suppose they're there. We're getting down to 20th Avenue in kind of an interesting area. We're gonna see the old Janssen swimwear company up here, where they made swimsuits for years. I even put in a job application there in probably 1970. You used to be able to see rows and rows and rows of sewing machines if you looked in the windows. Hopefully we'll still see that up here. We're on looks like Northeast 20th. Stuck at a light. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I think this used to be where the swimsuit girl was here at this music store for Janssen Swimwear. This building up on our right here used to be Farmers Insurance. My mother worked there for over 20 years. Now I think it's kind of a multi-use office building. We're coming up to the infamous corner of Burnside and Sandy, which used to be a very graceful, though admittedly complex intersection. But if you were an old Portlander and knew your way around, you could maneuver it very well. But somebody had to fix it, and now it has become a complex maze of square blocks and I'm sure if I drove it off enough I would figure it out and get used to it, but now it lacks all the grace and charm that it used to have. There used to be, right in this immediate vicinity, 2 places that were of interest. Scotty Burgers, they tore that down in probably the 80s, and there used to be a TikTok restaurant, TikTok drive-in right over here too, that was kind of a landmark back in the 70s. I am going to take a left here, and I'm going to cut off this video because I'm no longer on Sandy Boulevard. Thank you very much.